Behnam Ben Taleblu is a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He joins me now from Washington. So, but what would this resolution really accomplish?
So I think this resolution is an attempt to have a conversation about U.S. strategy and U.S. values in the Middle East, particularly as it relates to the Yemen war and Saudi involvement in it. I think it wants to basically tie U.S. hands and cease U.S. support for the war and withdraw U.S. troops either in Yemen or assisting in the war in Yemen.
So, Ben, remind our viewers why the situation is so dire in Yemen at this point and how Saudi Arabia factors.
You know, that's actually an excellent question because there's more than just the U.S. and Saudi Arabia involved. There's local forces, this group called the Houthis. They're basically insurgents at this point in time. They took over the Yemeni capital a few years ago. They have political and material support from Iran. They've fired ballistic missiles from their territory at Riyadh, at a civilian airport, and multiple times at cross-border towns. So this is a war that's been ongoing for over 3 years now. Lots of humanitarian catastrophes on both sides. And I think it's in everyone's interest to bring the war to a close. The question is, how do you do it responsibly and at a point where it's not another Middle Eastern Vietnam?
You know, this comes amid the controversy of Jamal Khashoggi's killing. The administration's argued that the U.S.-Saudi relationship is just too important to risk and to jeopardize at this point. Would you buy that line? Is that really true?
Well, it's a powerful argument that the administration has made time and again. I think the president has made it. The Secretary of State has made it. You've seen multiple analysts in Washington make it. But it's important to be able to have that conversation and read in the conversation about U.S. values. You know, the Magnitsky sanctions, the designations against 17 Saudi officials is important. How can we also keep up the humanitarian pressure on the Saudis without forcing them to concede to basically an Iranian outlet on the Arabian Peninsula? Everything with Saudi Arabia now needs to be seen through the Khashoggi prism, and in fact is being seen through the Khashoggi prism. And I think that's why the Senate wanted to pick this up and attempt to re-up last March's vote.
Do you think there would be consequences for the region if the U.S. ends its support for Saudi Arabia in this war in Yemen?
I actually think there would be significant regional consequences if there would be just a unilateral unplugging of U.S. Support. That doesn't mean that the U.S. can't call for an end, can't call for a responsible end, I would say, to the war in Yemen, but just basically doing an about-face and signaling to the international community that the U.S. does not care about the fate of Yemen, does not care about Iranian involvement in the Middle East, would send the wrong signal at the time when the administration is trying to make the Iran foreign and security threat the key of its Middle East policy.
Behnam Ben Taleblu, thank you very much for joining us, Behnam.
Thank you. My pleasure.